Cool. All right. Welcome, everybody, to this edition of Haftarah of the Week, brought to you by the Bayit, HIR. Yom Ha'atzmaut Sameach. Today's Yom Ha'atzmaut. Always in a kind of a down mood on Yom HaZikaron and in an upbeat mood on Yom Ha'atzmaut. So welcoming Ruby and Vivian, who Vivian didn't have electricity in her building. So she came to Ruby so she could log onto the class. That's real Mesirut Nefesh. I'm very impressed and touched. So welcome, Ruby and Vivian. Yeah. I'm going to rename you. Can I rename you Ruby and Vivian? just for this one. It won't be for next one. Ruby and Vivian. Cool. Yeah. Welcome, Robert. Ira, as I said, who is my back-end researcher and sent me so many articles about what we're going to be learning today, which I'll talk about in a moment. Robert Moshe, welcome. Ted and Phyllis up in Buffalo, welcome. And Ken, wonderful to have everybody who was on. Oh, is that Ken from the Atria? I'm coming to the Atria also today. Double. Okay. As we were talking about, we had a few options for which Haftarah we should learn. Oh, welcome, Carol. Nice to have you. One option is, and Carol's in Florida, I feel like Zoom is so cool for Yom Ha'atzmaut because Yom Ha'atzmaut is about kibbutz galuyot, meaning bringing the different places, the word galut is exile, but kibbutz galuyot basically means bringing people together, Jews from all different places. And that's what happens on the Zoom. Got Florida, we got Buffalo, like that's already south to north, right? And actually Ira's also in Florida. Some people are right next door here in Riverdale. Robert Moshe is in Brooklyn, I think. Brooklyn. And Robert Kalpas is in Yonkers. So just from this little group, we have a little kibbutz galuyot, which I love.
Brooklyn this week, but soon we're going to be strictly Lakewood. We're going to be putting our Brooklyn house for sale.
Wow. You want to be near the kids and the grandkids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wise move. Okay.
I mean, I'm displaying my Lakewood house, even though I'm physically in Brooklyn.
Wow, beautiful home. I can see why you'd want to live there. That makes sense. Okay, so as we said, we had a few options for which Haftarah to learn because there is the Haftarah for Yom Ha'atzmaut. It was so interesting because I read all these Shutim, which is She'elotu Tshuvot, questions and answers, written to sages, halachic sages, that were written at the time when the state of Israel started. And these questions were, what do we want to do to mark this day? And actually, we did something new in HIR in the early minyan. Well, there's only one to be left from HIR. And because the Haftarah, we do read a Haftarah, because it's not an aliyah per se, there's no Torah reading, a woman read it. Because there's no halachic chiyuv for a man, you don't even need a minyan for it because there's no blessings. You don't need a minyan for it. So a woman read it, which was really chidush and just really aligns with the values of the Bayit. So when you're setting up from the rabbanut, the rabbinate, the chief rabbinate, is there any intrinsic holiness to this day, Yom Ha'atzmaut, when the state was declared? Any thoughts about that? I really want to make this a discussion so we bring in the thoughtfulness of Yom Ha'atzmaut. I'd like to hear, let me ask you, if you didn't know what we should do from a religious point of view, what would you suggest? Can we be that subcommittee for a few minutes? What would you suggest to do to enhance our day in a religious way and celebrate that it's Yom Ha'atzmaut? Any thoughts? There's no wrong answers, okay? Ted, put you on the spot. Ted and Phyllis, go. Or not?
I bow to Phyllis.
You bow to Phyllis. Excellent. See, that's already a good way to start. The men allow the women to decide. Great
Absolutely.
way to start a country. I love it.
You certainly would say Hallel.
Oh, so Iris says we would say Hallel. So there's 1 second, Phyllis, we'll go right back to. So Hallel is our praises there. That's what it is. It's different mizmorim from Tehillim. And it's praises, but here's the thing. So you can always recite what they call a kapitel Tehillim, a perek, a chapter, but this is up Tehillim of Psalms, but do you say a blessing? Now it's a big deal to say a blessing or not, because we don't take blessings lightly. we don't just say blessings for no reason. You can't just walk around and say Shechianu all day. I mean, you could, but you're taking what we say God's name in vain. So there's actually a big controversy even today in Israel among the Orthodoxy. Some people say it with a blessing. Some people say it without a blessing. But it's pretty much across the board that everybody says Hallel. So Ira's saying Hallel feels like a go-to because it's praising God for saving, for winning, for victory, for a momentous and joyous event. And do we say Hallel on Purim? Because that was also a momentous event. Do we say Hallel on Purim? We don't say Hallel. And one of the reasons, or maybe the main reason that we don't say Hallel on Purim is because it didn't happen in Israel. But Yom HaTzmaut happened in Israel. So that reason would be taken away. So we're still left with a celebration of victory, marking the occasion. So if we're going to mark the occasion, let's try to use something that was already done. We don't have to, we being the rabbinic subcommittee, we don't have to invent the wheel. Hello, Helen. So we have Buffalo and Rochester, just saying, and Florida. So instead of reinventing the wheel, let's take a prayer of praise that we've already used, Hallel. And then the question would be, do we say bracha or not? Just a little parenthetically, in my shul in Israel, I mean, I guess it's sort of my shul still, in Ra'anana, it was actually, when I first came to Ra'anana, it was the third Shabbat it had started or something like that. Now it's already, it's established. It's called Ariel. And some people in the shul say Hallel with the bracha on Yom HaTzmaut, and some people do not. And at one of our meetings of the shul, we made a decision that on Yom HaTzmaut, we will always pick a chazan who says Hallel with a bracha. That doesn't, you're not coercing anybody to say it. If you're in the kahal and the chazan said a bracha, you don't have to say the bracha. But we wanted to cover all bases, and we thought it would be respectful for those, because person saying it with the bracha covers those who don't, but not the opposite. And I thought that was a beautiful way to kind of normalize that and bring everybody into the tent of the most expansive. So we spoke a little bit about Hallel. And by the way, I did a musical Hallel today, and I used tunes from Eretz Yisrael, and I'll be doing it again on Yom Yerushalayim. Yes, Ted.
Well, my understanding is that when Israel was established, the rabbis decided that you would not say a bracha for a number of reasons. And then I think it was some 25 or 26 years later, they said conditions had changed and you should say a bracha.
I'm not
So
familiar or not.
we did in our shul this morning.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I don't have enough information about the exact timing of it. I guess when I came to Israel, it was already a controversy, let's see, I came to Israel in 1972 for high school. So that was about 25 years later, actually, after Kom Hamdina. That's true. I remember going to the 25th year celebratory parade in Jerusalem for Yom HaTzmaut. Teddy
Well,
Collins.
there was also a dispute about when you should celebrate. Should you celebrate when the UN decided that Israel could be established, or should it be Yom HaAtzmaut, or should it be at the end of the War of Independence? So there were all kinds of things that had to be settled.
Yeah, 100%. And you can imagine, like, to us, it seems so obvious at this point.
Right.
But when you're starting out, it's like anything you're starting out, you make a subcommittee, and the subcommittee has to decide and bring their proposal and discuss for or against why it should be here or there. By the way, there was also a big controversy about whether Yom HaZikaron should be attached to Yom HaTzmaut. Because the Yom HaZikaron, which was yesterday and the night before that, is the saddest day, not maybe in the religion. I mean, it kind of does rival Tisha B'Av, I have to say, at least in Israel. I mean, it's really sad because it's people who have lost people who they know. Yes, Phyllis.
So this morning I got a text from a friend of ours who lives in Buffalo, is originally from Russia, whose daughters have made Aliyah, and she sent a text that said Chag Sameach. And
yesterday or today?
Today. And so now I'm thinking, well, can we make it a holiday, even if it's not officially a holiday. And then
Why
since,
isn't it officially a holiday?
is it? Well,
Does it count as a chag?
Oh, you mean is the word chag appropriate? Is that what you're asking? That's a
Yeah.
good question. Okay, so let me hold that thought. I mean, let's circle back to it. I think I want to discuss that as well. I think that's a great question. I just wanted to go back to the Yom HaZikaron Yom Ha'atzmaut, and it was decided that because sadly Yom Ha'atzmaut, Independence Day, is on the backs and souls and lives of those who we lost as chayalim, as soldiers, and chayalot, female soldiers, and lately in the last X years, I don't know exactly how many, nifkei pu'ulot ha'eva, meaning those who were killed through terror attacks, terror actions, whatever it's called in English. It's shifted, it's not just chayalim. For many, many, many years, it was just the soldiers, but that's shifted. Sadly, we had too many people who we lost through terror attacks. It just became something we had to mark in Israel. But it used to be, remember the siren that you stand dumb, that you stand silent, and all of Israel pretty much stops? When you're on the highway and the cars stop and stand next to their cars. It's very powerful. And it used to be that there was a siren in between Yom HaZikaron and Yom Ha'atzmaut. I still remember then, well, you probably remember also, Vivian, because you were in Israel at that time. So there was a siren that marked the beginning of Yom HaZikaron. There was a siren at 11 a.m. 10 a.m. is on Yom HaShoah, but 11 a.m. on Yom HaZikaron, marking the beginning of the state funerals in the military cemetery, still till today. And there was a third siren that marked the end of Yom HaZikaron, the beginning of Yom Ha'atzmaut, and the Mishpachot Shakulot, the bereaved family, said, it's too hard. That 1 minute, it was a 1 minute that switched between Yom HaZikaron and Yom Ha'atzmaut. They said, it's too hard. That minute is so connected to sadness for us. We can't have it. It's hard enough for us to move from Yom HaZikaron to Yom Ha'atzmaut. Okay, that's about Yom HaZikaron, Yom Ha'atzmaut. Who's on the phone?
Hey, Stuart.
Hi, Stuart. I'm going to rename you, and I'm going to put you on mute because there's a lot of feedback. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the Yom HaZikaron, Yom Ha'atzmaut. I guess you guys already figured that we're going to talk about the Haftarah of Yom Ha'atzmaut. Good guess. I did want to mention the other two, but now I want to address Phyllis's question. So Phyllis says, well, I think you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, that the word chag, which means holiday, is reserved for the biblical holidays. So I would say in Israel, there are specific ways that we greet people on different holidays, okay? On Rosh Hashanah, Shana Tova. Nobody says Chag Sameach on Rosh. I mean, somebody might, obviously, but that's not the common greeting. On Yom Kippur, it's Gemar Tov or Gemar Chatima Tova or Tzom Kal, meaning it should be an easy fast. Those, you don't usually say Chag Sameach, even though it is a Chag, also Yom Kippur. Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, Chag Sameach. On Chol HaMoed, which is on Pesach and Sukkot, Mo'adim L'Simcha. I mean, this is really across the board, although I would say non-Orthodox, non-observant people don't usually say Mo'adim L'Simcha because they don't really keep Chol HaMoed. No, it's not so meaningful to them. But it still is the correct greeting. Chanukah, people don't usually say Chag Sameach. They say Chanukah Sameach or Chag Urim Sameach, the festival of light Sameach.
Yeah.
And on Purim, they usually say Chag Purim Sameach, if they say anything, right? Okay. And those are kind of a little bit similar to Chol HaMoed, that they're weekday. They don't have any Isur Melacha, not that you're not allowed to do creative work, but it also has an element of Chag. And on Rosh Chodesh, people just say, Vivian?
Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov, it should be a good month. What do they say for Yom Ha'atzmaut? I think that's the only one left, as far as I can tell. Or maybe Yom Yerushalayim, but Yom Yerushalayim, people don't really greet each other that way, even though it has a stronger halachic imperative to say Hallel with a bracha, but it is not widely acclaimed and celebrated all across Israel, particularly less among the non-observant, not Orthodox. But Chag Atzmaut is what it's called. It's not called Chag, it's called Chag Atzmaut. So people usually say Chag Atzmaut Sameach, but because it's so long, they shorten it to Chag Sameach. But there's no halachic reason not to, even though I agree with you, Phyllis, that it feels like using something that's meant for biblical holidays. But the Chag Atzmaut Sameach is like Chag Hanukkah Sameach or Chag Urim Sameach, because you're adding, people following my Hebrew, if there's a question, please make sure that you ask me, because so Phyllis, do you feel like that answers your question, or you're still a little on the fence here? You're muted.
No, I actually thought it was kind of a nice greeting.
It
I
is.
was fine with it.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering, in terms of the things that you had said, like, what else can we do? What should we be doing? How
Yeah.
do we handle this? I
100%.
thought that was kind of an interesting way to start the day.
Yeah, no, 100%. And absolutely Israelis will do it. Like, there's not a question. People dress festively at night. Mostly during the day, people are usually going out to barbecues or just getting together family. Don't forget that in Israel, where the work week is usually Sunday to Thursday, and often children learn in school 6 days a week. So there are no Sunday barbecues per se. Yom Ha'atzmaut is one of those days where everybody has off because it's a national holiday, but it's not a Chag per se. So you can drive and everybody has off. I mean, I guess except for, essential workers, doctors, nurses, whatever. And they work b'matkonet Shabbat, meaning that they're more limited. Obviously they'll do emergency surgeries, but there's nothing scheduled on those days. And the Kupot Chalim, how do you say that in English? How do you say Kupat Chalim? But the doctors, the nurses, whatever, the
National Health
yeah,
Service.
national health. But it's not only national. It's Kupat Chalim. There are a few of them, and it's where you go to get your health services. So those offices are all closed. Of course, stores are pretty much closed. You might have stores that are open to get drinks, maybe a little bit of food, but most people have off. Okay, that's the background. Though we just started. I mean, I have to say something about Yom Ha'atzmaut. I can't go by. Now, the other options we had for Haftarah, is Acharei Mot and Kedoshim. There were 2 parshiot we're reading this week, Acharei Mot Kedoshim, and each of them have their own Haftarah. But when you put 2 together, you never read, pretty much, never. You just don't read both of them. Here's the interesting thing.
My Haftarah is Kedoshim.
Cool. So usually, got it. So you have a birthday. So usually we read the Haftarah of the last thing that we read, meaning we should read what Stuart said is his birthday Haftarah. It should be Kiddoshim. It turns out on Shabbat, we are not going to be reading Kiddoshim. There is the Haftarah of Acharei Mot is a more important Haftarah to read, Haftarah. And therefore, on a year when Acharei Mot and Kedoshim are together, when the sages were picking which of the 2 to read, Acharei Mot was picked. It's just a little nuance, a little fact. You can.
Kedoshim is Ashkenazi. I'm an Ashkenazi.
I don't know about that. I know that I don't know about Ashkenaz.
I know the other Haftarah anyway.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay. Yes, Vivian.
Yeah, I was thinking about how the rabbis called this Yom Ha'atzmaut Reshit Tzmichat Gulatenu, that it's the beginning of our redemption.
Fun.
And looking forward to more redemption. And it's a very important thing. And then they would automatically say, wow, we're living in exceptional times and we need to look forward. We were promised the Geulah and here it's starting. And it's no wonder that they would want to call it a Chag.
Yeah.
Chag Sameach.
Yeah.
It's our redemption.
Yeah, very nice. And for example, those who are keeping Sfirat HaOmer morning practices, like not hearing live music, not getting a haircut, not shaving, those who are doing any of those things, Yom Ha'atzmaut is a cessation. Is that how you pronounce it? Cessation in the morning. As a matter of fact, I have a haircutting appointment today because for whatever reason, but I didn't feel that I could wait till Lag BaOmer. And I wanted, so I made an appointment for today on Yom Ha'atzmaut. You can't do it after nightfall. Not that places are going to be open after nightfall, but once night falls, it's over. It's not like Purim, which extends and you can say Al Hanisim. But the traditional, by the way, Phyllis, that you say is Moadim L'Simcha Legeula Korva. something like that, which is a combination of Chol Moed, which is a designated time, and Geula Krova, that our redemption should be soon. And 100% that our sages saw that says Atchalta de Geula. You can hear the word Lahatchil. This is an Arabic. The beginning of Geula, of our redemption, because having our own state, our own sovereignty, not the right word, in the land of Israel is an amazing, amazing thing. I'm going to add to it, but I see Helen would like to say something.
Yeah. I have a question, and that is, you had mentioned that Acharei Mot Kiddushim, we do the Haftarah for Acharei Mot and not Kiddushim. Is that the only time there is that exception where we do it for the first?
Well, it is a real exception to the rule. We do have it's interesting. It's a very good question. Reb Stephen once said to me, of course there are rules and rules are made to be broken, but they're only made to be broken when there's a reason to break it. So in this case, the reason is because remote is more important. I'm sorry, Stuart, I'm putting you on mute because there's a lot of feedback. But there are other times I'll give you an example. We've talked about maybe the Shiva de Nechemta, the 7 Haftarot of comfort that happened between Shabbat Nachamu and Rosh Hashanah. Now it happens that Rosh Chodesh could come out on Shabbat during the time. And when it does, we have to read the special Haftarah of Rosh Chodesh, which we read last week, and we learned about it, I think, last week. And that supersedes, that takes precedence. But the Shiva de Nechemta are so important that we take that Haftarah that we missed and we attach it to a different Shabbat, which actually it's a continuation or the first half of the same perek. So we put it together. So we make up.
Right.
And Kedoshim and Acharei Mot have that as well. So that's another example, and very unusual. It's only because the Shiva de Nechemta, these Haftarot of consolation, are so important. So I'm trying to think if there's another time that we flip, that we do the first one. I think this is the only one that I remember. But there Haftarahs, as we mentioned at one point, the Haftarah is wait, I was going to say something and now I forgot. I can't remember. I'm sure it will come back to me because it was really important. About being connected to the day, I'm not sure. But I do want to say this. Do you remember that we spoke about the fact, did I answer your question, Helen? I just want to make sure. Okay, perfect. I remember at the beginning of our class, we talked about why are there bichlal haftarot? Like who came up with that idea? Does anybody remember in one sentence why we have haftarahs bichlal? Why do we even have a haftarah? Anybody remember? But short and to the point. Was anybody listening yet? Just kidding. Yes, Helen.
Well,
Commentary on the Torah.
Okay, commentary, not exactly, but close. 1 second, Robert.
Yeah.
Robert. Wait, 1 second, Vivian. Robert, Kalfas.
Guards posted in the synagogues forbade us from reading the Torah. And so we substituted the Haftarah as a reminder of what we're about.
Correct. And, oh, we just lost Helen. All right, I'll connect it. Oh, Helen, you're there. So yes, and connects to what Helen said. It's not a commentary, but it connects to whatever was in the Torah reading supposed to be that week. Okay, so yeah, those two pieces go together. Okay, so yes, Carol.
Okay, so I thought also because there isn't time to do more of the other chapters, that it gives you some.
Wait. What question are you answering?
No, about why we read the Haftarah, because it gives us a sample of the other books of the Torah that we don't read.
Oh, that's interesting. I
heard that somewhere.
That sounds good. No, I mean, okay, maybe that's the reason that they picked those chapters in order to, I don't know, but that sounds great too. But it was set up originally because we were not able to, I'm sorry, I have to put you on mute, Stuart, it's a lot of feedback. But the reason though it was even initiated is because there was a time, and I don't remember in which Turkey, or I can't remember where, I don't remember where it was, where we weren't allowed to read Torah, we weren't allowed to read from the 5 books, and the sages instituted that we should read something that feels connected. But you're right, Carol, it's a beautiful way to know about the other books. It's awesome, actually. It's like whetting your appetite. But why am I saying that now today? Because when that subcommittee of rabbis, or no, not rabbis, of leaders, but maybe they were sages and rabbis in the rabbinate, when they were deciding what to do, like, well, it's not clear that we can add Torah reading. Adding a Torah reading is a really big deal. Taking out the Torah, making the Birkot Torah, saying Baruch Hu Hashem Barach. We don't just do that any day. It's saved for Chagim, including Chol Hamoed, Chanukah, Purim. That was a big deal. Fast days, Rosh Chodesh, which is a biblical Chag, Shabbat, of course, and Monday and Thursday. Why? Why Monday and Thursday? Anybody remember?
Market days.
Market days, but that's okay. That's the reason they picked Monday and Thursday 100%. But that's not the reason that we lane
Oh,
2 more times during the week.
yeah. You shouldn't have too many days between Torah readings.
Exactly. There's a pasuk, and we shouldn't have more than 3 days without Torah reading. And the reason that Monday and Thursday was picked is because it's market days. That's when people get together. So of course you want to do it when a lot of people get together. Okay. But we don't just add days. It's not a trivial thing. So it was suggested. And somebody told me that she's been in shuls where they did it. I've never been in a shul where they laned. And I've been in Israel most of my life, but that's okay. I don't mind if they do that in some shul. It's kind of cool. But adding a Haftarah, first of all, we have a model for it because the sages already picked a Haftarah for right when they couldn't do laning of the Torah. And it feels very connected. So, but if you don't do brachot, there's like low stakes, I would call it. You're just saying verses from the Torah, from the Navi, from the prophets. You're not saying a blessing in vain. So it feels low stakes from a religious or an Orthodox point of view. Are we on board with all that? That was all of that, just the background? Because I love to teach that background and because I wanted you to understand where we're coming from and kind of bring us back 75 years. What would it feel like to be in the rabbinate and decide what to do? So you go according to tradition. By the way,
I think we also,
yeah,
I think
Ira,
we
go.
also have to discuss why they, aside from picking this Haftarah is read also on the 8th day of Pesach, which is
Correct.
not read in Israel.
Correct.
So having that decision come up for the Golah, what Haftarah they should read, and then of course, is there a connection for choosing it for the 8th day of Pesach and for choosing that one for Yom Ha'atzmaut?
So thank you. I actually wrote a sermon on that during COVID and I recorded it and sent it out. I can share it if anybody wants. I have it printed. As a matter of fact, just want to show you that I sent out the words, but I also recorded it because we recorded all of our drashot because we weren't meeting in shul. Just want to show everybody that this was the painting that I put on the top of the sermon. And I showed it when I was doing it. So I don't know if anybody read yet the Haftarah, but what does this remind you of?
Gedar, the Tzvi, they should live together.
Should live together, right? By the way, a comedian once said,
yeah, that was on Laugh It. They said the lion will go with the lamb, but never said that the lamb's going to get up again.
no, that's not, well, so here's the way I heard it. The lion may sleep with the lamb, but the lamb won't get much sleep.
They said the lamb's not going to
It's a
get up
little
again.
cuter. Well, it's more that the lamb won't get much sleep because we'll be looking over his shoulder. Okay, so thank you, Ira. We don't have time to go into all that. However, I did give a whole drasha on why we pick it, partly for Yom Ha'atzmaut and partly for the 8th day of Pesach. And I have it written. If anybody wants it, you're welcome to reach out to me and I'll be glad to send you the PDF if you're interested. And I looked at it myself when I was thinking about what to talk about today. It was so interesting. One of the articles that Ira sent was all about the connection between the psukim of the Haftarah and actual events that happened at Kom Hamdina when the Israel was beginning. And those are obviously when the Yeshayahu, when he wrote it, he didn't know about Kom Hamdina, but it was just interesting that people were looking so much for connections. Okay. So first of all, thank you, Ira, for mentioning. We just read it on the 8th day of Pesach. People who are in shul might have heard it. It certainly is a famous Haftarah. But in Israel, It is not read on the 8th day of Pesach, but in the Gemara, it says which are, I think it's the Gemara, not the Mishnah, that says which haftarot we pick for each day, include, it's the Gemara in Masechet Megillah, and they include there, because the Gemara was written when there was already exile, they include what you pick for the 8th day. So again, going back to the subcommittee, they're saying, well, 1 second. There's a beautiful haftarah that the Gemara lays out, and we don't actually get to hear it in Israel because we don't have an 8th day of Pesach. So let's use that one. Now, of course, people outside of Israel, I think at the beginning when Israel first started, people outside of Israel did not follow the special, like in the Koren Siddur, how to keep Yom Ha'atzmaut Tefillah. I don't think people knew about it outside of Israel. They just didn't do it. So over time, we do it outside of Israel as well in Zionistic shuls, shuls who feel connected to that. And then, of course, we read it twice because we just read it on 8th day of Pesach. But I don't think that actually bothers anybody that we read it a second time. So I want to ask you, if we say that this is a messianic view of redemption, I would love to hear from this group. I'm just going to get myself a cup of water. I left it over there by mistake. Why it would connect to the 8th day of Pesach, and why would it connect to Yom Ha'atzmaut? Any thoughts? Well, Vivian, you already started on one of them. Why would we read it on Yom Ha'atzmaut? I mean, we could read a few of them. Let's try to go through quickly in English to see if you get a feeling for what. Yes, did you want to say something?
I think the connection might be that in Israel they don't celebrate the 8th day of Pesach, so it points out, we're no longer in the Galut, so we didn't do the 8th day of Pesach, so let's pick it up and acclaim it, and then eventually maybe there won't be any Galut anymore, and all the Jews will be collected back into Israel, and maybe that's what we need to look forward to, that everyone will be back in Yerushalayim, in Israel, Zion, and all that. Yeah.
Great, beautiful.
We say in the Seder, the last thing we say is L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim. Even if we're in Galut, we look forward to be back in Yerushalayim.
Correct. Very nice. Beautiful. It's probably not big enough, right? The screen.
I can see it.
Helen, how do I make the screen bigger?
Yeah, I can see it. Can you
I
see
can
it?
see it.
I see it.
You,
People can pinch on the screen and make the
I
words
can't
bigger.
pinch on my screen. That's the problem. It's not a touch screen.
No, but we can do it
Some
individually.
of you can, right? That's true.
Right.
You know, Helen, how to do that? I just don't know how to do it.
I can see it. Are you
It's a-
able to see it on your screen?
Take 2 fingers on opposite sides of the screen and diagonally and enlarge it.
No, I
Right.
hear that, but I can't do that.
Right, that
Yeah, but
one.
we could do it if we can't see it.
No, but can everybody do that? That's my question.
I don't know.
Does anybody,
Probably, but I'm not gonna do it.
is anybody?
Also, if people
Yeah.
want, if they maximize it, it will probably.
I can read that.
You can read it. Okay. This day at Nov, God, so this is so interesting. At Nov, Od Hayom Benov La'amod Yinofef Yado Har Tzion Gibat Yerushalayim. So God will stand, well, actually, there are different ways of understanding this. First of all, do people know that in Israel, what do they do on Yom Ha'atzmaut? What's the most common thing to do? Anybody know?
Barbecuing.
Barbecuing. So Linofef means
They
to
march
make.
through the streets and then
No, there are some not demonstrations like parades. Sometimes, not that often on Yom Ha'atzmaut, not so often. I think at night there are definitely shows and singers, and there's people go out into the streets after davening those.
and celebrate.
But during the day, I don't think there are parades so much during the day. It's more going out to eat and to have barbecue, things like that. So, so the thing in Israel that they say is that when you're at the barbecue, you use these fans to, I guess, fan the smoke or fan the fire. So the word fan is in here. I'm going to show you.
faith. Faith.
Exactly. So it's a joke, obviously, but that he shall stand and wave. Obviously, this is connecting to having barbecues because you have to wave the barbecue.
Barbecues, yeah.
Joke. But that's not really what it's meant for. Okay. So we're looking out over Yerushalayim, and another way of saying it is that God is so close to Yerushalayim, like you could wave. Like that's how close we are. Okay. You could see it. God will hew off the tree crowns with an axe. The tall one shall be felled. This is talking about Sancherib. This is talking about an enemy. The thickets of the forest shall be hacked away. The Lebanon trees shall fall. And here's a very, very beautiful pasuk. Imagine that you have a tree or anything growing that feels dormant. Nothing is growing out of it, but inside there's a shoot, a green shoot just waiting to be born. A shoot shall grow out of the stump of Yishai. Yishai, that's the monarchy, the dynasty from David. And that twig shall sprout. The spirit of the Lord shall alight upon him, a spirit of wisdom and insight, counsel and valor, devotion and reverence. Shall sense the truth. I love this. He shall not judge by what his eyes behold, nor decide by what his ears perceive. Rather will judge the poor with equity, decide with justice for everyone. Strike down a land with the rod of his mouth, slay the wicked with the breath of his lips. I mean, this is a metaphor. Justice shall be the girdle of his loins. Faithfulness, the girdle of his waist. So this is talking about Mashiach, basically, Mashiach ben David, who will come. And look at what will happen. So some people say the wolf shall really lie down with the lamb. The wolf will actually become a herbivore instead of a carnivore. The leopard shall lie down with the kid. As we said, the wolf shall lie down with the lamb, but the lamb probably won't get much sleep. I think it was Woody Allen who said it. The calf, the beasts of prey, and the fatling together with a little boy to herd them, because if a little boy can herd beasts of prey, then obviously they're not beasts of prey. Cow and the bear shall graze the young.
The boy.
What? Jesus?
I'm just putting you on mute for a minute. The lion, like the ox, shall eat straw. So again, they're not eating meat. A babe shall play over a viper's hole. An infant shall pass his hand over an adder's den. So nothing evil will happen. It's a beautiful idyllic scene. As water covers, the land shall be filled with devotion to the Lord. On that day, the stock of Jesse of Yishai remain standing. Nations shall seek his counsel. He will be honored. The Lord will apply the Lord's hand to redeeming the other part of the kibbutz kaliot, bringing everybody together. Hold up a signal or banner. Assemble the banished of Israel. Gather the dispersed of Judah. This I love also. Ephraim's envy shall cease, and Judah's harassment shall. And basically, Ephraim will not envy Yehudah. Yehudah shall not harass Ephraim. And when I think about what's going on in Israel today, I'm not saying which one is Ephraim, which one is Yehudah, of course, but there's a lot of dissent among the Jews and the citizens of Israel. And it's a beautiful thought that even if we don't agree, there won't be hatred, there won't be envy, won't be harassment, that people will get along with each other. Edom and Moab will be subject, so those usually representative of the Arab countries. The Lord will dry up the tongue of the Egyptian sea, raise his hand on the Euphrates, continuing on that day. So this last chapter is really, really beautiful, and you will know some of the verses here. And on that day, Amarta bayomahu odecha Hashem, I will give thanks to the Lord, although you were angry at me meaning Bnei Israel, but your wrath has turned back, and you comfort me. Hine el yeshuati, hine el yeshuati, eftach velo efchad. Yozi v'zimrat Adonai v'yehi li Yeshua. So this is from Havdalah. But look at what the words mean. God, who has given me triumph, or actually has saved me, I am confident, unafraid. For the Lord is my strength and might. The Lord has been my deliverance. And you know this one. Ushaftem mayim b'sason mimaynei ha'yeshua. You shall draw water from the fountains of triumph. And this could be literal water because Israel is a dry land very often, or it could be waters of Torah. You shall say on that day, praise the Lord, proclaim the Lord's name, make the Lord's deeds known among the people, declare God's name is exalted. God has done gloriously. Let this be made known in all the world. Sahali v'roni yoshevet Sion. Shout for joy, you who dwell in Sion. Ki kadol bekirbech kedosh Israel. For great in your midst is the Holy One of Israel. So just some thoughts when you heard me reading this about how did that feel to you? How did it sound to you? What words, or how would you describe this Haftarah? How did it land on your ears, so to speak?
Wonderfully inspiring.
Wonderfully, it is inspiring, right? It's beautiful visual, beautiful, inspiring, beautiful. Like it inspires.
It is uplifting.
Uplifting, yes, inspiring and uplifting, which is great, specifically for Yom Ha'atzmaut. It is really, really beautiful, nice. Anything else?
Well, I think later you're going to read later about the kibbutz galuyot. That comes a little bit later, but
no, I read that in there. Are you talking about in the Haftarah?
No, I mean it comes later. With all the you picture like airplanes coming in, bringing people from all over the world.
Nice. Well, we had that from Ethiopia, right?
Right. So, and if you watched Israel yesterday, you saw how many Ethiopians were involved in the tekes. It was really beautiful to see, and the
Hebrew is what?
Beautiful, just
beautiful. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch much of the ceremony. Do people know about the tekes, the ceremony that moves from Yom HaZikaron to Yom Ha'atzmaut? It's an
I was watching it live.
Amazing ceremony where
and
they
that's
light.
That's why Kadoshi was different.
That's why what? Say it again.
Kadoshi was different. Actually, because you're not the children of Kushim, of Ethiopia. Ethiopia was the son of Ham. But I helped a lot of Ethiopians to Israel. NACOEJ, we got a lot of Ethiopians from Israel. It's not the children of Ham that way. We got the Ethiopians coming to Israel.
Correct.
I got them.
That's not you
were
not
the children of Ham. That's all.
Wait, you were in Israel then? Sorry, Stuart, you were in Israel?
I belong to NACOEJ, the National Congress of Ethiopian Jews. We transported them there.
That's amazing. I have a friend who's a navigator in the Air Force, not anymore. I mean, he's retired from that. And he was a part of those operations, Magic Carpet and all the operations.
Right. I did that.
Yeah, I hear you. Thank you. I hear that.
Not just we beat that.
Yeah, I get that. Thank you. Yep, got it. Yep, we got it. Ethiopians, got it. So we never knew this when he was doing it because he was so, they have this code of silence. And even after we laughed at him because even after it was on TV and they would talked about this, he'd be like, yeah, I don't know anything about it. We're like, we know you were there. He's like, nah. He would totally deflect, which was
Barbara Cove, Barbara River Cove, she's in charge of NACOEJ.
No, I really don't know that. I don't know, but thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. That's wonderful that you were involved. So that's the kibbutz galuyot that Ira was talking about. So there are different parts to this. There's different parts. There's God coming with an outstretched strong hand and defeating enemies, whatever that means. Halavai, today our enemies were defeated in Israel, obviously. And then there's wait, let me just make sure I get the right order. Yeah, then is the beautiful pictorial scene, did I say peaceful scene of whether it's about, now, some people say, by the way, this is an allegory, that the wolf and the lamb is like the wolf is the enemies of Israel and Israel is the lamb who was led to slaughter or being, in danger.
It's the idyllic scene.
Idyllic, that's how you pronounce it. I can't remember how. It's a beautiful idyllic scene, but what I wanted to say is that some people, I don't remember if it was the Rambam, one second, I did look that, I had that who said it was actually meant to be graphically like that animals would all be just eat plant food, like they would not actually, they would eat hay, they would eat grass, that we won't be in danger. Although, of course, I don't know how the world would work if there's no prey. I mean, all animals would just proliferate. So obviously, there's got to be some natural checks and balances. I don't have to worry about that because I will let God take care of that. Just saying. But I want to read you something that was in my drasha. That just 1 minute. The first 3 verses of our Haftarah describe the miracle of Sancherib. Who was Sancherib? Sancherib was an Assyrian king who wished to conquer Jerusalem during the time of the first temple. He camped out by Nov. Remember, I read that it was about Nov. In English, it says Nob, but in Hebrew, it says Nov, with 185,000 of his soldiers, which is like crazy amount, thinking it would be an easy conquest. King Chizkiyahu's heart trembled with fear when he saw them, but Yeshayahu, this is where this is from, this Nibuah, reassured him that God would save the Judean kingdom. And sure enough, God sent an angel to inflict Sancherib's army with a plague, wiping out the army overnight in one miraculous blow. Maybe they all got COVID. I don't know, something like that. This event was so astonishing that it moved Lord Byron to pen these words. You ready? So not only do we have a beautiful painting that was inspired by the second part, these are just some words called the destruction of Sancherib. The Assyrian came down like the wolf on the fold, and his cohorts were gleaming in purple and gold. For the angel of death spread his wings on the blast and breathed in the face of the foe as he passed. And the might of the Gentile, unsmote by the sword, has melted like snow in the glance of the Lord. This beautiful poetry. Okay. I want to go back to Ira's question. We spoke about why it might be read on Yom Ha'atzmaut, and Vivian, you gave such a beautiful, inspiring words as background. Let's go back to that question. Why would we read this on the 8th day of Pesach? Why not on the first day of Pesach? Read the Haftarah because
I think it has to do also, the last day of Pesach is really Yom Ha'atzmaut, because they weren't free when they left Egypt. Then you had the crossing of the sea, and then a day later after that happened, which would be the 8th day of Pesach, is really when Yom Ha'atzmaut should be.
When you say Yom Ha'atzmaut in Israel?
I mean, from Egypt.
From Egypt. Yes, exactly. So that's exactly the reason. Does that make sense to people? That actually beginning of the Exodus was the beginning of Pesach when they left Egypt. But until they did, remember, Shirat Hayam was on the 7th day of Pesach, means a crossing of the Yam Suf. Only happened, they crossed over the 7th, 8th day of Pesach. So that would be a good time to celebrate the Geulah. That would be a good time to use this Haftarah. Does that people get that? That's the connection that should be on the 8th day of Pesach. Okay? Right? Everybody with that? Okay. Yeah. Any other thoughts before I give a few more? Any other thoughts?
Yeah. It also, on that 8th day, they became a free nation. A nation cannot, a group of people cannot be a nation if they're slaves. Yeah. They can only be a nation free.
No, you're right, Vivian, except that they were not slaves already.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they were. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking.
They were, because they were still being pursued by.
Right, because they're still being pursued. Correct.
It wasn't until they reached the other shore and the Egyptians were drowned in the sea that they became a free nation.
How about mental slavery? Mental slavery.
Well, mental slavery, Ruby, I agree. That didn't happen for a long time. But maybe when you're moving from mental slavery, you first had to celebrate to mark the beginning of the path. We need to mark moments. I mean, why do we mark when our kids, let's say, have a bat mitzvah, or when a child is born, or when there's a wedding? You could just do it quietly. I mean, you don't need any event to mark somebody. People say to me all the time, I never had a bat mitzvah. I'm like, just want to make sure you understand. You totally had a bat mitzvah the day you turned 12, but you didn't mark it. And that feels like you're missing something, because it was a momentous event. Now, when you're age 12 or 13 for a boy, you're not really cognizant, available, ready to take on everything, but it's the beginning of your path. So when you mark it, it becomes an important day, and you're you're mentioning it, you're doing something to mark it, to say this is an important day in
Mhm.
my history. So that's an important day in your personal history. But in our communal history, Yom Ha'atzmaut was an important day, and the 8th day or 7th day of Pesach was an
Yeah.
important.
I was also thinking that it also marks a time of freedom where it's even connected to democracy, because if you're living in an authoritarian government, then you don't have any freedom. You're essentially a slave to what they
Yep.
tell you have to do. And only in the kind of country that is democratic and where you have freedom, and you have a Bill of Rights, and you're able to live a life of your own choice and choose the type of life you want to live, and all according to laws. Of course, everything is limited so you don't hurt other people, but certainly living your own personal life the way you want it.
Beautiful.
That's significant.
So
Yeah.
I want to finish with a nigun or a song. Are there any requests, or should I pick one? Any requests? Because I have nothing to add to these beautiful words that Iris said, that Vivian said, that Stuart, who was part of the building, everybody, Robert, everybody, Helen, everybody has added, Carol, Robert Moshe, who was moving out of his own personal freedom from Brooklyn to Lakewood, where there's room to park. You will have the freedom to park. Yay!
Yeah.
Any thought of what of a tune or a song?
Oh,
That's-
well, a freedom to park, you got that one right.
Freedom to park, exactly. Any thoughts? Any tune? Come on, Ira, my music person. Any song you'd like to hear?
There are too many.
Too many, yeah, I agree. Beshavu banim, beshavu banim, beshavu banim ligulam. I'm putting you on mute because you can't sing together on Zoom. Beshavu banim means that the children or the sons will come back ligulam to their boundaries, and that means to Israel. Beshavu banim, beshavu banim, beshavu banim ligbulam. Beshavu banim, beshavu banim, beshavu banim ligbulam. Beshavu banim, beshavu banim. What? Wait 1 second. Let me just finish singing, Stuart. Beshavu banim, beshavu banim, beshavu banim ligbulam. Beshavu banim, beshavu banim, beshavu banim ligbulam. Everybody can unmute and say Chag Atzmaut Sameach.
There was a great Dash
I-
cartoon about an Arab worker sitting on a scaffold in Yerushalayim, and
Yeah.
he's carving into the wall V'shavu banim l'gvulam.
Oh, wow. That is kind of beautiful. Halubai. We could get along with our Arab neighbors and our Arab citizens in Israel. That's a dream.
Chag Atzmaut Sameach.
Thanks for joining, everybody. Wait, Stuart, now you can unmute and tell me what you wanted to say. Stuart, waiting for you.
Could you send out that thing that you have?
Well, I'm not going to send it out to everybody because that's to the whole show, even though I did send it out 2-3 years ago when I wrote it. But I'd be glad to send it out too. If anybody wants it, just let me know.
Yes, I'd like to see it.
I will send it to you, Ira. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Chag
thank
Sameach.
you. Chag Sameach, to my research assistant. Every week, it's amazing, so helpful. All right, my friends. Chag Atzmaut Sameach. Those who can come to the bayit, we have a barbecue in the afternoon. I'll be there around 5:30. Sending love to all. I know Helen, you won't make it. Robert Moshe won't make it. Carol won't make it. But everybody else might make it. No, okay. Another time. That's okay. You joined, then that's great
Have
too.
fun.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.